Hey guys, wobbly here, indicating what I was talking about better. I also need to make sure that I change controls for that booster from the brake. Ignite boosters, let's remove that. It's a letter V used somewhere. How about a letter X? What can I use it? There, Alt B. See how I'm holding the brake? It says no reverse thrust. You see the brake icon? I'm gonna throw it all the way into full throttle. You're gonna notice that as the aircraft continues to build up thrust, you see how it slowly lifts up a little bit from the rear and then it slowly begins to tilt forward. Still hasn't revved up to max RPMs, so I gotta keep it going. Max RPMs are officially achieved because the aircraft is already moving forward. I gotta do it this way because that's how it is. I'm gonna dial it back 5% so I can maintain some of that max RPM thrust. Then put it back to 100. This is a standard takeoff. 141, 153. Okay, we have enough thrust for takeoff. 5% dial back. This is realistic battles. Alright, time to remove the takeoff flaps. Time to level out. And since we took off in the airfield, because that's how they do it in RB, realistic battles, you take off in the airfield. And that's what it is. I'm hitting 200. I'm gonna wait until I get to maybe 250 or 275. And then we're gonna ignite the boosters and we're gonna see how far this will carry us up into the air. We'll hit it at 300. So hopefully I hit 300 miles an hour. Nope, doesn't look like I'm gonna hit 300 miles an hour. Alright, I'm gonna show you the booster action. Boosters are very helpful because they help you gain altitude really quick. In the event of a total emergency, these boosters are helpful. Make sure to count the seconds so you can list it in the comments later how long it actually gives you. These boosters already threw me up with enough speed to reach about 1,500 miles in 1,500 meters, sorry, before hitting 250. I'm well over 1,500, and I'm at 1,568. So I'm at 1,668 on height, on meters that I went into the air before the official issue happened. Now you notice that the aircraft is slowing down. The only way to fix that issue is that if you have an abundant payload or combat flaps, it's best to do that. In realistic battles, of course, you won't be able to reload your bombs, so, you know, once you drop it, that's it. 2,000 meters, still haven't reached sufficient altitude for even combat function. If I keep the engines going the way they are, they'll blow out or I'll end up losing the oil pan. Essentially is what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the oil pan, but I'll essentially lose the entire engine if I keep it going in the yellow, so you got to keep an eye on that. Oil coolant in these particular engine systems for this jet is very important if you want it to keep it in good condition. Now, that's just the baseline function of it, but the oil coolant is important for this aircraft. If it isn't cooled down enough, the engine will throttle out and then you will stall out, or worse, you'll lose engine 1 and 2 and you'll be doing a one-way trip just to make one drop. Now we're going to restart it again, so that way I can go right back to where I was at. Then we're going to show it to you what a quick takeoff looks like. The bomb that I'm carrying on board on this aircraft is a 3,000 kilogram, known as a Fab 3000. It's got 1,400 pounds of explosives, or kilograms of explosives. More specifically, I'm going to wait for this baby to throttle up even more, so waiting for the RPMs to stack up over here. Okay, we're ready to go. And this is a thrust or booster assisted takeoff. You want to keep the takeoff flaps off so that way you can catch as much speed as you can. And this is a booster assisted takeoff. You see how I only took up a third of the runway and the remaining of it is still there? And I'm already in the air. With the boosters, you'll take off with this heavyweight bomber long before all the other people at their BR. In fact, if you use the boosters to take off, you'll be the first one taking off. However, you do need to keep in mind, if the enemy team has ME-262s or ME-163s, the Messerschmitts 262s or Messerschmitts freaking 163s, those will be the first things you'll be encountering, because they have rocket-based engines or boosters attached to them. Of course it says afterburner system, but it's not an afterburner. They're booster systems because they run on a separate fuel. Some of them run off of rocket fuel, some of them are on rocket fuel, some of them are running off extra jet fuel, but the engine was designed to be basically a propulsion system, like an engine propulsion system or startup assist. As you can see, I'm already at 200 miles an hour. I'm at 1,200 meters. And everything seems to be going just fine. Keep in mind, this vehicle has limited fighting capabilities, so you will not survive too well if you don't know how to use this thing for a dogfight. You also need to keep in mind that high G-forces can tear this aircraft apart. Not easily, but you can tear it apart by attempting to dogfight other planes. I do not recommend it. Now we're going to go ahead and eject so I can get the other portion of this video underway. This will just be an explanational video for this particular vehicle. Tupalev Tu-14 C. There are other variations of the Tupalev 14, including an electronic warfare version of it. So if you're wondering what that bump right there is, that's not where the machine guns are at. That's where the electronic warfare device was at. So this aircraft had electronic warfare already pre-installed, and that's what made this a formidable bomber type. You couldn't see it too well with radar, but you could see it whenever you actually got up close and personal. So this little thing right here is supposed to be for electronic warfare. It was also supposed to be so it could mount a camera onto it so that you can put guided munitions inside. This thing had a large enough bay for them to store a single missile. And And by missile, I mean cruise missile. That little thing right there could be used for electronic warfare and laser guidance or a precision guidance system. This aircraft could sit from high altitude and drop precision missiles the size of the entire compartment of that thing and guide it all the way down to the bottom. The guy that you'd see sitting in this little compartment right here would be guiding said missile all the way to the ground. Henceforth, a little bump. He also has a little viewing port right there, which allows him to view everything down below. Now, the guided missile thing was just an experimental function. Although it was ingenious to put a missile inside of this thing, it's a lot more complicated than you think it is to just drop it at subsonic speeds. Plus, it's extremely heavy. Now let's say you're at 1100 meters, you're trying to speed away from an enemy. Well, you don't got much in turning speed, as you can clearly see. If you count the seconds of how long it took me to make this full complete turn and make the other way around, you'll notice that I'm actually traveling pretty slow. But let's say you have the upper hand and you got the distance from them. Keep in mind that your vehicle has a maximum speed it can attain. Pay attention to any indicators from the aircraft or any indicators that flash on screen telling you you're going too fast. These afterburners could help you get a boost of speed if you got an aircraft chasing you from 2 kilometers away. Depending on map and BR that you get dropped into, using those afterburners can be very helpful. Or it might not be helpful at all. Because chances are if you fly over your base, you might not have SAM systems like this one you see right here. The XM-1069, you might not see those listed around your airbase. You might see old school World War II anti-aircraft weaponry, which isn't going to be very helpful in aiding your escape. But depending on the BR you're in, you might get lucky enough and you'll find roll-in systems just firing missiles at targets from far away, keeping them away from pretty much everyone on the ground base. But there's a general issue with roll-in missiles as well. Because of the limited capacity and function, even if somebody was flying directly above your base and dropping guided munitions like the ground penetrator weaponry, which can be found on British and on American aircraft, if they're dropping those guided munitions, you will never be able to take off from the airfield, ever. So once that happens, you might as well as not play the game, or at least that part in the game, because there's no way you'll be able to leave the airfield. The two main guns on this thing, very formidable and extraordinarily accurate. The explosives on this aircraft, extremely dangerous. If it detonates within close proximity, you could shred this plane in a matter of seconds. Now, that's all I have to say about this aircraft, the Tupalev Tu-14 C model. It's a CB, so if you plan to use it for bomb dropping and other stuff, make sure that there's a lot of aircraft out that are fighter planes. And see if you can get somebody to give you a fighter escort. Whenever I finished freaking this aircraft and spaded it, I was giving people fighter escorts when I seen them flying this thing. Because I know how hard it is to get anything with this thing. I'm gonna leave this thing running at 100% capacity. Let's see if the engines will go out. Keep in mind this aircraft's engines can take quite a bit of abuse. But once you start hitting like 500 miles an hour and stuff like that way up there, this aircraft won't be able to handle the abuse. I can get it to blow out. Do. Ow. My teeth have become sensitive. Mostly because I was clenching my damn teeth over the last few rounds in that last video. Oh, I actually flew up to 3,000 meters with this thing. Okay. I want you to pay close attention and pause the video whenever you see the wings fall off this thing. This will tell you exactly how fast you're going to be able to go before the wings break off. Right there, around 550 miles an hour. They'll start telling you to reduce your speed. The wings begin to shake violently, and that's because the spars can't handle the drag. The drag becomes so great past 225 miles an hour that the spars begin to weaken. You could lose parts of your plane, and then that's it. So keep in mind, if your plane's exceeding 525 miles an hour, the odds of you making it back home to base are very low. Your plane's practically capped out at 500. That's all for now. Thanks for tuning in to this instructional video on the Tupalev Tu-14 C CB model. Part is this thing doesn't fire both cannons at once. It's sequential fire, which gives you a better chance of hitting your target. Oh, look at that. Looks like the engine's gonna go out as soon as it hits that maximum number. Let's hurry up, get to it. 101, engine overheating. Yeah, I know. Engine's overheating. Hitting that magic number 505. See the spars shaking a little bit. If you've been paying attention to how long I've had this thing on full throttle, it'll give you an idea of how far you're going to be able to travel before this thing's dead. There it goes. It's already flashing. Engine 1 and 2 at 202. It's like 722. I'm going to go ahead and do the X-ray mode so you can see exactly what happens. Engine 1 and 2 are completely overworked. Looks like engine 1 and 2 is starting to shake. I'm not even at that speed, but it looks like the engines are causing a bit of shaking on the wings. I wonder what happens when these engines blow out. Do they take out the wings? There's been an instance in recorded history where an engine got so hot on a Russian fighter plane and on a bomber plane that when the plane landed, the engine was melting. Along with the frame of the aircraft, it was just melting. There we go. The aircraft just blew. Both engine 1 and 2 are officially overheated. The temperature is dropping, and you want to know why? Because the engine is melting. The oil just dropped, pressure, temperature dropped. The engines are officially running away. Which means these engines have hit their peak temperature and they're already breaking down. And that was the engines exploding, meaning that it's already done. So if you're wondering what that sound was, that was literally the engines. They just blew up. They're gonna keep going until they freaking completely melt. Keep in mind, if you had saved your boosters for this entire project work, that's how it is. The engines are dropping temperature, the responsiveness in the engine's thrust is officially getting worse. I'm leaving it at max thrust. Even if you try to save the engines by cutting thrust, you probably won't save the engines since they've already gotten blown. Temperatures on the engines will vary. They'll increase, they'll decrease, increase, they'll decrease, increase, they'll decrease. It'll keep doing that until officially the engines are completely just blacked out, meaning they've shut down, they've killed out, that's it. You can keep asking for more thrust once they get to that point, but it's already over for them. See how they're blacked out? Once you hear a loud bang and you're wondering why you're slowing down, it's because you just blew and fried your engines. I'm waiting for the part where the engine completely kicks out, which is when they're grayed out. Right now it still says the engines are working. I'm waiting for them to gray out. So keep it in mind, holding max throttle and everything will not save you. Looks like engine oil 2 and 1 are about to hit maximum. Engines died, overheated. Throttle control is completely locked in place. The engines are officially dead. Once that happened, your plane kind of just free falls at that point. But on the upside, even if your engines die when flying back to base, you still have an advantage. Oh, there you go. Alright, that's it. Bye-bye.